Good afternoon. My name is Claudia Karidis. I'm Vice President of Public Affairs. On behalf of the administration of the American College of Greece, I would like to welcome you all to our event titled Digital Leadership is Not Just Digital, an event organized by the ACG Institute of Hellenic Growth and Prosperity and the Office of Public Affairs as part of the ACG 150 event series. Even though the pandemic doesn't allow us to have you physically present on campus, to have an audience on our beautiful campus, we are still excited to host you virtually for what we believe will be a very interesting discussion exactly because of our panelists. So I would like to thank our guests for joining us today. We are very happy to have the panelists physically present on our campus. We have taken all necessary precautions. So let me just mention that two of the panelists are also ACG alumni. So as we like to traditionally say, welcome back home. Today's theme touches upon what is very topical, a very topical issue today globally and of course in Greece. We have recently witnessed an amazing digital transformation in our country. Some say it was meant to happen, but the pandemic definitely accelerated the pace of changes in this domain. One of the few positive consequences of the pandemic, I would say. Thanks to this digital transformation, we can currently enjoy a multi-dimensional, I like this word on this occasion, interaction with public authorities from our home or office in a very easy and fast way, something that people of my age could not do before. Yet, perhaps more importantly, we need to understand how fast our business leaders are adjusting to the new digital era and how fast and efficiently they are able to transform their operations. And this is what we will be exploring today. However, I would like to take the opportunity to note that in view of the celebration of the 150 years of operation of the American College of Greece in 2025, and staying true to its mission and values, the American College of Greece has recently launched ACG 150, a visionary strategic plan aiming at leveraging education for economic and social impact and helping Greece enhance growth and prosperity. ACG 150 actually evolves existing academic programs and research in an effort to address public policy and enhance Greece's growth in key economic areas. To this end, we have established the Institute for Hellenic Growth and Prosperity, one of the co-organizers of today's event, and a number of centers of excellence to support its operation. We aim at strengthening Greece's entrepreneurial culture and boost Greece's research through strategic collaborations among our institution, academia in general, industry, and the public sector, while encouraging job growth and innovation. With ACG 150, we want to actively support our country as it emerges from the pandemic and the relatively still recent severe economic crisis, addressing the challenge of cultivating a sustainable, resilient and adaptive society, and teaching our students how to be responsible and engaged citizens. We hope that today's event will provide the basis for further collaboration between our institution and the private sector. We hope that we will be able to continue further addressing as effectively as possible, even more effectively, the current and future challenges. So thank you to our panelists and the audience for joining us today. And now I would like to give the floor to our moderator, Professor Ioanna Constantinou. I want to thank her for putting together this excellent panel, and we look forward to the discussion that will follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Karidis, for the introduction. I also wish to thank and introduce the speakers for this panel discussion titled Digital Leadership is Not Just Digital. It is both a pleasure and an honor for me to have this discussion with three business leaders who have an overarching view and a very unique perspective of how digital transformation has impacted organizations. So I would like to introduce the speakers in the order that they are seated. Allow me, it comes with age. Mr. Michalis Tsamas is the chairman and CEO of OTE Group, the largest technology company in Greece and subsidiary of Deutsche Telekom since November 2010. Mr. Tsamas is a strong advocate of technology as the means to sustainable growth, and under his leadership, he has managed to successfully transform OTE Group into a modern, customer-centric and tech-related enterprise. From his position as head of the Digital Economy Committee of the Hellenic Federation of Enterprises, SEV, and member of the Athens Digital Council, he focuses on policy-making proposals to bridge the digital gap nationwide. Ms. Katerina Vlachou is the managing director of Mondelez Hellas in Cyprus, and she's heading one of the largest FMCG companies and a global brand. She has been a member of Mondelez for over 25 years, and she has experienced the transformation of the business across time. As a leader of Mondelez, and by taking full advantage of the new technologies and the potential of social media, she has developed a number of marketing campaigns that have been recognized with international distinctions and awards. Ms. Vlachou has also cultivated a culture of lifelong learning in the organization so that every employee and member of the business can develop the skills to respond to the needs of the digital transformation. Lastly, let me introduce Mr. Michalopoulos, CEO of Microsoft Greece, Cyprus, and Malta. From his position, Mr. Michalopoulos drove significant commercial success in these markets, while also leading the broader modernization of the company's sales model. Under his leadership in Greece, Microsoft is implementing the largest investment made in the last 28 years in the company's operations in our country. As a business leader and while working with a competent sales and technical team, Mr. Michalopoulos has developed an expertise in promoting the digital transformation of private and public businesses and organizations in all three markets. I would like also to welcome back on campus Ms. Vlachou, who is both a Deree and Alba alumna, and Mr. Michalopoulos, who is also an Alba alumnus. Mr. Tsamas, we do not have the honor of you being an ACG alumnus, but I hope that we still have the time to attract the second generation.
Actually, I'm at the board of your of Alba, so I have kind of a relationship with the college, and I have hired quite a few young executives.
That's an honor. Thank you so much. Yes, okay, nice. So thank you so much, it's an honor. So given the background and the expertise of all three of our guest speakers, I anticipate a fruitful and a very insightful discussion. We have planned a short panel discussion, and then those of you who are attending the panel discussion online, you will have the opportunity to send us your question via the event registration platform. And since your name will not be shown, if you want to, please identify yourselves. And of course, if you have any affiliation with ACG. So please allow me to introduce the topic of our discussion today. Digital transformation is at the core of the global agenda. And many organizations have embraced this change the hard way due to the pandemic. Others were more prepared to adapt and adjust. When we're talking about digital transformation, we mean that organizations will have to infuse technology in the business processes, in the customer experience, and overall the company culture. So what we need to ask ourselves is, with this disruption, business leaders are faced with new challenges, and we need to understand what kind of leaders do we need. Digital transformation is going to be the new language in business, so should leaders speak that language? Is it sufficient for them to be leaders? And I would like to start with you, Ms. Vlachou. So, drawing from your overview and experience, should the Digital Leadership Handbook be completely rewritten for the digital age? Or is digital transformation just another disruption?
Well, it all starts with a vision that the leader has. And this vision is translated into strategy, and it is conveyed and cascaded to the whole organization. So in theory, digital transformation is one of the transformations that we have gone through and companies have gone through, and we could say that it taps within the leadership handbook. On the other hand, we see that this transformation is different than other transformations of the past. First of all, because of the speed, and I don't think I need to explain this further because it's happening really fast. The second thing is that it actually is something that you cannot ignore, because if you ignore it, you're going to miss opportunities for growth. because things are evolving and you need to be there, and actually you need to lead this change. Other companies, smaller ones who are the challengers in the markets, are doing so, and so you need also to adapt in bigger organizations this growth mindset. This means speed, it means agility, it means evolving according to technology, it means changing the culture. And this leads to growth opportunities because at the same time consumers are changing, their trends are changing, the way they interact with brands is changing. So you need to embrace the whole process. So leaders are there to develop the growth mindset within the company and to be alert of the culture and evolve and make it evolve throughout. The other factor which is different than other transformations has to do with the fact that the impact is huge across the organization. So on all aspects of the organization, starting from people, you need to redefine the talents. What kind of people do we want on board? What are the skills and capabilities? This is the first thing. How do we attract and retain this talent? How do we train our current employees to be able to proceed and move on with the future developments? How do we allocate the talent? And here leadership needs to make really important decisions because the theory says that you need to put the biggest talents behind the biggest opportunity growths. This transformation is also different because it taps on the organizational structure as well, so it is changing. We are moving away from typical hierarchies to more agile teams who are operating cross-functionally. Each member is considered an equal. They are members of the team because they are experts in their area. Agility mindset and methodology is really important throughout this process, which means that trial and error is part of the learning process. So technology is there to support the teams. For example, 3D printing has led us to develop products in shorter time, in smaller scale that you can test, you can get the learning early enough, and then you can confirm the product and actually launch it in bigger scale with bigger success options. So leaders are there to make sure that they support these agile teams, they guide them, and at the same time they give the approval along the way. But what is key is that these teams are empowered to take decisions on their own because they are experts in the specific projects. Also, it affects the ways of working. So apart from remote working that we have all experienced over the past months, which has also led to engagement of employees and also to better performance in the end, it also affects the activities because we move away from activities which were time consuming that are now automated through the systems, so we can reallocate the resources in a more efficient way. Just have in mind, for example, the harmonization of warehouses between suppliers and customers, paperless invoicing. So really leaders now have the chance to move resources to what is important. And the final thing is, of course, the culture, the way it is evolving and changing. We talked about growth mindset, but it has to do with also people, how they deal with the change. We know that the majority of people are reluctant to change, and sometimes they're often negative. So it is the famous change curve. So leaders need to be there in order to support their people during the transformation. So they need, first of all, to have the clear vision that we said before, and in a way that it is easy to communicate across and that people understand, and they need to be close to them along the journey to provide the relevant information that will make them feel okay and safe to move on and embrace the change. And the culture evolves, and it needs to involve following, of course, the values of the company, but also the vision that we have in mind.
Thank you so much for the answer. So it's all about vision. And Mr. Tsamaz, in 2016, when the notion of digital transformation was far from mainstream, you announced it as the new vision for OTE Group. Could you please refer and maybe explain to us the example of OTE Group towards that journey?
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank you and the organizers for inviting us to this event. It's a great opportunity to be
May I
able to
kindly suggest
communicate
that
with,
you keep the microphone a bit? Thank you
Okay.
so much.
It's a very good opportunity to be able to be introduced to your students. I hope they get some good things out of this event.
I'm sure and positive about
Now
it.
regarding transformation, I would like to start by saying that in order to embark on a transformation journey, you need, above all and first of all, to embrace change. You have to embrace change, and you have to make it your mindset. What you see today from OTE, the leading position that we have in the market is the result, or it's the culmination of a 10-year continuous transformation journey. And allow me to take a few minutes to give you the story of how we started
Please do so.
more than 10 years ago. It was back in 2010 when the country had got into all these financial problems, so as you all know. Hotel was in a very difficult position. It was losing on a monthly basis thousands of customers on both fixed and mobile, and at the same time the net debt was exceeding 4 billion euros. Needless to say, you all know probably as customers of ours, that the service was by far one of the worst, I would say, in terms of customer experience that we're offering. So at that time, we realized that the only way to save the company was to transform. So we very quickly decided to launch a 360 strategic plan of transformation, and we believed in it. My team, the people over there, and myself, we really got into it, and we managed to transform the company into what you see today, a very efficient, modern, and above all, one of the most successful telecom companies in Europe, as it has been characterized by the international financial community. I would like also to say that during those years, despite the fact that we had all these problems, and despite the fact that the country was into a deep financial crisis, and the banks and international financial institutions were reluctant in lending for refinancing our loans or our bonds, we did not stop investing in infrastructure and in systems, because we realized that we could not succeed in transforming the company if we did not continue with our investment plan. So despite all these difficulties, we continued with our investment plan, and this paid off long term. And this is, I would say, one of the key factors that played the crucial role later on when we started the transformation or the digitalization of the company. So once we came to a point that we said that, and the numbers and the statistics prove that we had come to a very good point of transforming the organization, we needed a new vision, if I would say this. We needed a new challenging target, and we needed this for two reasons. One is, you know very well that in order to have your people to believe in the company, to believe in the strategy, to believe in the objectives that you set for them, you have to have a long-term vision so they can believe in it to go after it. At the same time, we realized that as a technology company, that digitalization was not a luxury, that it was going to be a matter of survival, not only for our company, but for I would say all companies. And as a technology company, we had to embark on this new transformation journey, and set this as our priority. Okay. So we started in 2016. That before digitalization had become a daily discussion item, and we committed again with a new 360 plan, addressing not only the internal processes but also addressing the customer-facing activities, addressing the network operation, all aspects of and all functionalities of a company, whether they were internal or whether they were external. Now, this is not an easy task. It's a very difficult task. It requires high commitment, high investments, and it's a long-term process. And above all, again, like every transformation, your people have to believe in
the
it.
vision.
Okay?
So you endorse what Ms. Vlachou said also
Exactly,
earlier.
exactly.
Excellent. So thank you very much for sharing this example. The question goes to you, Mr. Michalopoulos. How can leaders lead by digital example? How can we use the digital channels to inspire the vision that Mr. Jamas was discussing earlier and convey the purpose?
Okay, hello from my side as well, and I hope next year or one of the next events we'll have the opportunity to have the students physically. Thank you for having me here. So it's been a year for all leaders of companies. It's been quite a year, and it was, I think, all leaders of the companies have changed within this year. It was important to do things that in the past were different. We needed to have more empathy, to listen more to what is happening to the field, to understand how to motivate people in a different context, ensure that they are out there while being at their home, etc. So digital channels definitely had some drawbacks. Let's be honest, it was a tough period. So I would name three main challenges that we all faced and I faced personally in my company, although we are the providers of the technology to work remotely and doing other things. And the first one was fatigue. It is proven that all digital is different than physical. For example, we have seen that when you're working in front of a Teams and collaborating, you get fatigue much more faster than being on physical form. The second one is work-life balance. It has a huge impact on our people. I think that across companies, I think both Katerina and Michalis can support that there is a problem outside. There was a problem with work-life balance. And as Satya, our CEO, said, sometimes he didn't know if he was working at home or sleeping at work. So it's kind of tough. And the third one is how do we stay connected with the people, and how do we are able to create the next steps? How do we communicate the strategy in an effective form, create the growth mindset to go out and do the significant, what we are creating the strategy and communicating this in the right context. So personally, what we did in the company and what we realized quite fast is that we need to change the way we were communicating. So two examples was the first one, that we changed the way that we do the usual things that companies are doing, like town halls, all hands, the things that you do once per quarter or whatever to talk to all your people. So we changed the frequency of that and the duration. So in the first days of the pandemic, we went to do it every 15 days. Why? You needed to stay in contact with your people. You need to stay and to feel what they're doing and create this context that you were losing the everyday touch, the everyday words, etc. And this way we were also able to fight a syndrome that was happening in our people called tribalism, which is during this pandemic, we have seen that people within specific departments communicate a lot with the people in the same department, but they fail. We have seen a reduction in collaborating across different departments. We call this tribalism, and this is an effect we needed to break. So that's one thing. And the other thing that personally helped me a lot was a virtual cup of coffee. So as we couldn't have them in the office, every Tuesday morning I had a meeting with people from different departments, and we didn't talk about business. We talked about how they felt at home, what are their challenges. And that was a learning for me personally, because getting into this, you feel that we are all at a rough sea. We all have the challenges. And what I was probably missing is that we are all at the same sea, that is a rough sea, but we're in different boats. So people have different issues. For example, I believe that if you have kids, it's the worst case scenario. It's not. Yeah, it's the worst case scenario, and it's not. If you see all the researches, so that it's the opposite. The single people have been affected the most in this pandemic. So I think that all the digital channels and the opportunity it gives to leaders to step back see the situation again, change the way we are performing, and embrace a growth mindset, as Katerina said, in the new era.
So it's a matter of company culture once more. And Mr. Tsamas, since the transformation of OTE is an ongoing case, could you please refer to the challenges?
As I said, maintaining the correct mindset and persuading your people that this is the way to go and that it's not a matter of choice, but it's a matter of survival. I would say this could be a challenge, but I would say in general the challenge for the business environment in Greece, I would characterize it in two categories. One of the problems is that there is, as we have seen it through research studies in SEV, is the understanding what is digitalization. A lot of companies or executives of companies, especially the middle and small companies, believe that having a website or having an ERP system, it's good enough, which is not the case. Okay, digitalization is much more than just having a website or an ERP system. And what we have seen in research studies is that in the Greek environment is that 91% of companies that we have researched believe that digitalization is vital, is very important, but only 48% of them have a clear strategy of digitalization, and out of this 48%, only 21%, if I remember the numbers well, are really implementing the strategy very, let's say, faithfully. So there is an issue there. However, as the years go by, people get educated, they realize the importance of it, they realize that digitalization is not just the ERP or the website, it's the cloud, it's the IoT, it's the way you sell, the way you analyze the customer needs, the way you use the analytics, the way you use the mechanisms or the algorithms and the systems that you set in order to approach your customers. So there's a lot more. So this is one area. The other area, I mentioned it earlier, is again the mindset. So these are the two areas that I would say that they are challenges. But unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because it is not a good situation we're in, COVID has helped to increase the awareness of the need of digitalization. And
that's the good news. Okay.
I would say there are two. I'm a bit. It doesn't sound good, but being a realist, I would say that COVID is a very unfortunate thing, a very awful thing that we have, and that our society and the people are going through. But if you ask me, is there any experience that or any benefit you get out of this? I would say two are the benefits out of this negative situation we're in. One is that people have become and business have become very much aware of the need of digitalizing. That's one. Secondly, as a father, since you mentioned the kids, I have more time at home with my kids because now they don't go out. So we have, as parents, we have, let's say, the luxury to have the kids at home. Because before, especially when you have adolescents, the free time, they never stay at home.
So they get to see you more. Yes.
Or or do things together more. Anyway, so.
That's a very interesting point, which is actually getting me to a question that I would like to ask Mr. Michalopoulos. With digital transformation, we experience a context collapse, and I think that you referred to it earlier as well. So where the boundaries between work and home have been severely blurred. That's why they get to see Mr. Tsamas more. In Microsoft, you just published a report claiming that hybrid work is here to stay. In Microsoft also, you follow the framework of model, coach, and care. Could you please explain how this model is used by a leader?
Yes, and it's actually a very nice report, and there's a lot of things into there about how we believe that there will be a combination. We will keep the good things out of the pandemic, like seeing our kids a little bit more, I assume, and traveling only for the necessary things, and utilizing the technology to gain flexibility. We don't need to be on the streets at the same time, traffic, etc. So before getting in the model coach care basis, it's very important to define what is a leader. So for Microsoft, a leader is every manager of the organization. And managers for us were very important in this pandemic, but always, because they are the company at the eyes of every people. And I still remember one of our leaders worldwide, who is reporting to Satya. Judson was once, he was a leader in Oracle before joining Microsoft. And he was, in one day, he was telling us, who do you think is my mentor, the person that influenced me more in my life? And he said, when I was 40, I was working for the CEO of Oracle. When I was 45, I was working for the CEO of Microsoft, etc. And you know, everybody was guessing who was the one influencing more. And then he says, the one person influencing me more was when I was 25 and I had a territory manager at a small part of US in Oracle, someone that was is still in that position. So reflecting back, it's managers have a vital role every day in creating the culture and cultivating this to the whole organization. So model coach care is something that we're using as a context, and basically for this pandemic, it's quite important to realize that as leaders, first of all, we need to model the behaviors we expect. So if we send emails at night, if we send emails at Saturday and Sunday all the time, this is what the rest of the people will do, because that's a culture. So we need to model the right behavior. If we go out and advertise that we spend time, as Michal said, with our kids, that's something that then people will want to do. So it's defining. The second one is coaching. In this period, the number one problem we had in companies was priorities, prioritizing the work. By the way, this is something that's always happening. So you need to have the strategic question. If you ask to get something, what you will not do, because whenever you have to do something, you need to leave something behind. So that's why we need our people to coach their teams effectively. And the last one is care. Care is really important. I had a personal example yesterday. I witnessed a business analyst in my team in Greece. By mistake, she sent an email with a file to one of our vice presidents, and he came back to me and asked, is it on purpose? And or is it by mistake? I asked the business analyst, is that by purpose? Or no? And she said back, no, it was a mistake. I'm very sorry. I will never do it again. Blah, blah, blah. And I communicate to the vice president. And the vice president took the time out of US to send an email to her and say, listen, if you knew what I have done in my career, about how many emails I've sent by mistake, you would laugh. We could spend the day laughing. So it was a small thing that was very important, and especially in this period, this caring element is super important in organizations, and that's how the model works for us. And it's tough. We need to have it every day, but this is the structure of the model, especially during the pandemic.
Okay, so this might be an extra challenge for leaders today, but it worth the effort. Ms. Vlachou, the previous two speakers, provided us with an internal view of the digital transformation, and I would like to ask you, is the fast-moving consuming goods industry moving towards digital transformation? And if so, how does this change affect the relationship with the final consumer?
Well, it's great to be back home and discuss about marketing, because this is where it all started for me. So thank you very much for that. So yes, of course, FMCG companies are moving into a digital transformation, because as we were learning at that time when I was a student here, we need to find the touch points with consumers. So brands need to create the connections And with the development of technology and the evolution of social media and online applications and the way consumers have their journey during the day in terms of what interests them and what they want to buy and what they want to hear about, actually, there is this opportunity of a seamless communication where online and offline is combined together to create a holistic experience for consumers. So it is up to the brands and the companies to make sure that they reach these touch points and they find new ways to connect. And technology, as we said before, it's here to support. So augmented reality, for example, is an opportunity that marketeers can exploit, which means that they can create virtual experiences. For example, during the pandemic, since we were not able to go physically to the store or to the hairdresser, there were applications online where you could choose your hair online or hair color online, and you can try it. There are QR codes on the packs that you can use to provide information and relevant, important things for consumers on the pack. You can have real-time consumer data and analytics that you can actually get the feedback directly from consumers. In the past, we had to send researchers at the home of the consumers for ethnographic studies, but now they're up to sharing things with you in a really creative way, which is really interesting. And normally consumers tend to share this information with brands that they trust. So what is important is to maintain this trust and of course to follow the GDPR guidelines. You can also think of branded content and how we can use branded content to share with consumers and how we can co-create branded content. And here you can think about TikTok, for example, where you can create a challenge for them to be involved. You can start a social dialogue, which is very important. For example, in the campaign of LACTA 2 years ago, when we started talking about diversity and inclusion in love, we actually provided the materials online, but then the consumers started through our platforms talking about it on their own. We didn't intervene at all, so we took a stance. You can talk about personalization, which is very important also for younger generations who want to have something very unique for them. So you can personalize your offers online. And of course, e-commerce, which is expanding. And there you need to select the right platforms for your brand in order to make sure that the experience created is the one that you want, and it's the one which is according to the equity of the brand and the company. Of course, marketeers need to consider how much to spend online and offline. In theory, companies which are already ahead in terms of Fmcg's digital transformation, they spend around 60% online, which is different than in the past. You also need to apply new KPIs, conversion rate, for example, of online, how much sales it actually brings back to you. And of course, you need to have the right formats and material. In the past, when it all started, we had the normal TBC on air, and then we had the short version, and we had it online, but this is not the case anymore. So you need to develop specific materials which are suitable for specific tools and applications.
Okay, so we're talking about technology being infused in all stages of the customer experience. And this is interesting because, Mr. Tsamas, OTEC Group can also be considered as the leading organization in Greece in providing the infrastructure for this experience to happen and as a digital communication ecosystem. So, in your opinion, which type of businesses should be concerned with the digital transformation?
Actually, digitalization is for every type of business. I cannot think of a single type of business, or I cannot think even of a freelancer who doesn't need to use the digital say tools or skills, or especially businesses need to be or to become digitalized. So it concerns every type of business. I cannot exclude one type.
You referred earlier to small, medium-sized businesses. So you think that this is a topic that it should also be of the concern of even small business owners?
Exactly. Especially the small, we have many examples around us. We have seen in small businesses, even in single owner businesses, which by using digitalization have expanded their boundaries, have reached consumers or markets which are not only in Greece, but are outside Greece. So the same way someone reaches, or a business reaches the Greek consumers from anywhere in the world, from any country in the world. The same opportunity exists for the Greek businesses to reach consumers and markets everywhere in the world. So digitalization is one of the tools that they need in order to be able to achieve this.
Very interesting point of view. And Mr. Michalopoulos, what's your take on this issue?
Yeah, I feel that sometimes in technology companies, we have a stake on that. We have been part of the challenge in the past. We have created buzzwords like AI, like digital transformation, things that sound very complicated, but they're not. In the same context, some might think that digital transformation goes only for the big companies, which is of course not true. And as an example, one of the things that struck me recently was that I had a friend that owns a company that provides, creates and manufactures freezers, refrigerators for commercial companies, agriculture, restaurants, etc. It's a company with 20 people, with a good revenue, small one. And I asked her, how was it through the pandemic? And she said it was kind of flattish for the revenues, but we made more money. And I said, wow, how did you do that? You reduced your cost? She said, no, actually we increased our efficiencies. And I said, how did you do that? She told me, we used shared calendar for first time. We didn't use shared calendar, so our people knew where to go to support the customers, so we reduced the cost for serving our customers. Now, that might sound like the most basic things a company can do, but for an SMB, I was listening to her that she had a 10% increase on the margin because she had shared calendar and she knew where people to go, and it's quite amazing. So I believe that it all starts with simple things, and then you go to the more to the more complicated one. So I think that the potential for the Greek economy is mostly focused on the SMB, I would say.
So digital fluency should concern almost everyone. And knowing that younger people tend to be more digital savvy, I would like to ask Ms. Vlachou, who is leading a company with 60% of the workforce in Mondelez being millennials. How do you successfully lead the new generation of people who feel more connected with technology and less engaged with the organization?
It is true that they're really much connected to technology, and they also have a different role for their work in their life. So they value their work, but at the same time, they have other interests that they want to follow, and they have people that are important to them and they want to spend time with. On top, they want to belong somewhere. So they want a workplace where they feel they belong and they're recognized as individuals and not as a crowd. It's very different than what it used to be in the past. When we started working, for example, we were very much identified through our work, which is not the case anymore. So what you need to do as a company and what we are doing, and I think it's also very much aligned with what we discussed before, is the fact that we are providing an enriched work experience. And this means that we have cross-functional moves, we have cross-functional teams that are working, so you get extra capability, skills, and networking. We have mentoring sessions and programs in place. We have a very big online university where you can take online courses, and then you combine the courses also with face-to-face. We have health and wellness initiatives like, for example, Pilates lessons or stretching at home now during the pandemic. We also have work-life balance initiatives like early Fridays. Before the COVID, we had already started the remote working. So a lot of initiatives behind their interests and what is important for them. For example, extra paternity days off when you start your new family. So these are things which are important to them and we try to follow. And I think in most of the cases, they actually do not really cost anything. A mentoring session is totally free. Early Friday, totally free, you know what I mean. So it's things that you can really apply easily at work. And also what is important is because they are so much into technology, they like to share things which are important to them. So they become our social media ambassadors in the end, whenever they feel proud of the things we do, and pride is a big part of who they are. So they want to work for companies who have a purpose, who make a positive impact on society, on sustainability, the environment, who have a clear commitment on the diversity and inclusion. So it's a bundle of things which is really, if you think about it, it's easy to implement in the end.
Okay, and in that sense, how does remote work and migration patterns provide more opportunities to hire new talents and people that would not have access to such job opportunities in the past?
Yes, it's true that remote working has proven to be efficient and effective. So it's something that's going to lead us also into the next day. And it's true that companies now have a bigger pool of talents to choose from because you could hire somebody from another country without having to the relocation. And it's also the same, it's the opposite way if you have somebody in Greece and you would like them to be employed in a central team. I mean, in a multinational company, you might be exporting your talents in the central teams, which is a very good thing to happen because the people who work for central teams normally are the best ambassadors for the country and for the local organization. So this is something which is happening, and I think it's going to continue to be happening. And I think it's also going to have a positive impact at the macro level because after the brain drain that we had as a country, it's an opportunity to get talents back who could work from Greece and relocating back to their country and also finding new job opportunities staying in the country. So I think it's going to be a benefit at the macro level. And finally, regarding the workplace, definitely the flexible workplace, it will be the workplace of the future, where collaboration will be still important. So we're talking more about collaboration, not individual desks, but a setup which allows collaboration to happen when you're in the office, and at the same time combination with flexibility and remote working. So this is also the direction that the company is going in the future. Of course, we need to take into consideration that the balance is up to every company because of the different requirements, probably. For example, a sales team with local execution at the point of buying cannot really work remotely, but other services and parts of the company and functions can really benefit from the right combination of flexibility and collaboration.
To avoid the term that was coined by Mr. Michalopoulos earlier by Microsoft tribalization, you said? Okay, yes. Tribalism, okay, sorry, yes. So I do know that there are many students attending our discussion, and I'm sure that they would like to know, Mr. Tsamas and Mr. Michalopoulos, what are the digital skills that they should acquire being students by being students if they want to pursue a career in business? Can I start with you, Mr. Michalopoulos?
Yeah, the basic things, I think that first of all, we need to ensure that you keep the mindset that things have changed. In the past, you were in the university, you were learning some stuff, you went to work, you had the skills, and then you were working until the end of your life. And this has changed. Basically, we're learning every day. So the one thing you need to keep with you, and we all need to do, is to be ready to learn every day. It's a different mentality. We have to learn. Technology is moving fast. Everything is changing fast, as we said earlier. So we need to be able to learn every day. So I think that the basic skill everyone needs to have is the curiosity and the agility and the mindset to go to learn something new every day.
Mr. Tsamas?
Okay, it's always very good and it's an asset to be able to write code or to write algorithms. But keep in mind that a company needs all different specializations. It needs the accountants, it needs the financiers, it needs the marketeers, of course the programmers. So it depends on the direction that you have. Now, what's important here, since we're talking about digitalization, is to know if you're not directed towards becoming a programmer, a computer scientist, for any other function, for any other specialty, you need to be educated to have the savvy of how you can use technology. This is very important. If you're in marketing, you need to know what are the tools there, how technology works, and you have to be aware and to have to understand very well how you can take advantage of everything that's offered for you as a tool in order to be able to sell your product or to market your product better. Likewise, if you're an engineer or if you're in finance, you need to understand how you can use technology in order to do your job more efficiently. Above all, however, I would say what determines and what will determine your future, your career, in an organization is your attitude. Regardless of how much talent you have, regardless of how much um, uh, how high your IQ is, what is more important is your attitude. If you have the right attitude, then this is a guarantee that you will do well in your life. If you don't have the right attitude, then this will be an issue. And in many companies, when we are to make decisions to give promotions to people, to colleagues, to executives, attitude is one of the characteristics that really we look into, and we evaluate. And attitude is the one that the characteristic that really determines the decision of the promotion, if I would say this. I also have I would like to mention or to say a favorite equation that I use to my colleagues, to my kids also, saying that attitude is the multiplier that determines your future, and this can be proven mathematically. If you, for example, if you add talent plus exercise, and you multiply it by attitude, the rate that attitude has will determine who is going to be the champion of life or work or whatever, whether you will succeed in your life.
I'm very much tempted to ask, what is attitude? What is the right attitude? I mean,
Okay, it's many things. It's how you manage your failures, for example. It's how determined you are to succeed. How intimidated you are or not by obstacles, by difficulties. How you interact with your peers. How you interact with your superiors. How you live every different situation. So it's a number of different things or different characteristics that comprise your attitude. So it's not just one thing. So it's a number of things that make the attitude. In Greek we call it stasi. It's stasi zois. Okay, to say it in Greek also because it's very important. And this for me this is what determines the future of someone. For example, I'm sure if you can think of sports, you can think of many good players who had the talent, but at the end did not reach to a level that one would expect them to reach. But look at Antetokounmpo, for example. He has a talent. He has everything there, and probably the IQ for succeeding. But I'm sure if you study his life up to now, you will see that it's his attitude that made him to be where he is now. Okay? So this is the multiplier, and this is what determines your future.
your success.
Your success, exactly. And at the end, I would say, as a last point, that regardless of the level in the organization that you are, it is important to remember that you have to treat others, at least I do, that's what I do, that's what I've been doing, treat others the way you want to be treated. It's a very simple.
I would expect that you would say that because
Hello?
I heard you saying that so many times.
Yes, it's my favorite. The equation with the multiplier and this. You see, it's very frequent that I have young people or young executives who come to me and say, what should I do in order to be able to have a good career and to evolve in my life? And there is not one thing that you can say that if you do this, then you will succeed. It's a combination of things. But for me, these are the most important factors. One is, again, even what I said, treat others the way you would be treated. It's a matter of attitude.
Okay, I totally understand.
Okay.
If there is anyone who would like to add anything,
Yes,
any
and
thought?
ownership, I would say, is a key word. Ownership and not being afraid to take responsibility, something which also determines the way you act and the way you evolve. if I were to add a couple of points, but I totally agree with what was said.
Yeah, same here. I totally agree. I think that the learning from the failures is a very important one, as it adds to the agility, and that's how we are becoming better. We need to learn from failure. So I believe that this is very important. As we call it, we need to move from from a know-it-all organizations to a learn-it-all organizations. So we need to actually learn and not to try to look good or something.
So everything rises and falls on leadership and on company culture. Okay, very interesting points. And by the number of questions that I have already received, it looks like we have stirred up a keen interest in the audience. So please allow me to open the floor for discussion. Starting the question with a question coming from one of the attendees, actually a student, okay, Miss Christina Berberian. And she's an IB student, International Business. How do we encourage creative thinking within the organization in a digital context? May I ask the question to Mr. Michalopoulos?
Yeah, that's interesting. There are tools for that. There are so many tools. I can tell you about Microsoft tools. There are competition tools. In general, I think that the real idea is not about the tools per se. So you will find software that can promote creative thinking. I would say that the one thing is how leaders, again, connecting to what we were discussing, how we are accepting the possibility of doing something new to innovate. Because if you plan to do something new, then you need to be ready to fail. Because most probably, unfortunately, you will fail. But if you are successful, then it's very important. So I think that, again, it goes to use the right tools and have the right mindset into leaders to accept, to allow space for innovation and creative thinking, and allow space for failure and treat it accordingly, and move to the next one if it fails. If it is successful, then we're all happy.
Thank you very much. The next session is coming from Mr. George Banuchos, Alba MBA student. For you, Mr. Chamas, what are the main tools as a leader in order to persuade others to follow him or her in the digital transformation journey?
The main tools. First of all, you have to, as a manager or as a leader, you have to share and be your vision. You have to be very open and very straightforward with your people. You have to tell them the good things, but also the negative things. You have to be constructive in the way you make criticism, if I would say this. Above all, you have to make sure that what you say touches the hearts of the people. You know, one of the problems that we have with digitalization, with COVID, and with all this online thing is that it's for many people probably it's efficient. It's to be online, to have all these kind of conferences or dialogues with our people. But one of the things that we're missing is the bonding, and it makes it very difficult to bond with your people through a screen. At least that's what I'm missing. But you know, you have to start with your people. You have to start when you give them the vision. You have to start with quick wins. In order to even the ones who have difficulty to believe you that this is something that is worth going after. If you start with quick wins and you have given them all the right argumentation, having been transparent and having given all the facts, having helped them to understand the situation, then people will follow you. But honesty, sincerity, transparency, constant communication, these are
The qualities of the
parameters
leader.
that Okay, if we are to go the qualities of a leader, that's another.
Yeah, it's another topic.
It's another topic. If you have time, I can go on and tell you how I select or how I see young people. You know, whether they have, according to my judgment, I can call the qualities or not.
Of a leader.
But if I'm not mistaken, the question was how
Was on the
can you
tools.
persuade someone to follow you
Yes, I was
on a vision, right?
just very much tempted to link that with the qualities of a leader because you're talking about integrity, transparency.
Okay, it takes time. Okay, you cannot expect your people to believe you from one day to the other, but gradually, if you have these qualities, if your attitude is with these characteristics, in the long term, you will prove to them that you're reliable and they should believe you, they should follow you. At least in our company, we have managed to succeed in this. And I would say that when we started in transformation back in 2010, I remind you that this was a state-owned company. When I remember when I first communicated the vision that we need to make one of the best telecom companies in Europe within 5 years' time. I'm sure quite a few of them started laughing because no one could believe that OTE of that time could become with this kind of characteristics, let's say in 5 years' time. It's only a few that believed it. But gradually, then once they started, even the ones who did not believe at the beginning, when they started seeing that we were succeeding in what we had set as a vision, then they came on board. So you need to be
So a
patient.
transformative vision.
Yes.
Ms. Vlachou, the next question is for you. What was the greatest challenge for you as a leader during the pandemic?
First of all, it was to make sure that the safety and health of the people was secured. So this was our first aim overall, and then it had to do with transforming the day-to-day business actually to deliver results. And then, so this was the priority list. So it was the safety, health and safety, then it was the day-to-day and how we would transform it to not to even lose one day in terms of business results. And then we started taking again the time to build for the long term. So the fact that the urgency was there shifted a little bit the mindset at that time to something which was really day-to-day and ad hoc versus more long-term. So it was a big challenge. This was the first thing. And the second thing has to do with the culture of the company and keeping people together, despite the fact that we work remotely, because I truly believe that the magic within our organization comes from cooperation and collaboration. So we had to find ways to still keep the magic of the teams working remotely.
Okay, that's really interesting. And I have a question which is addressed to all of you. What seemed to be the greatest challenge for you at the time, the first time you were assigned a leadership position? So who would like to go first? Mr. Michalopoulos?
That's easy. So the challenge that you get is that is similar to what happens when you become a parent. Nobody really explains what you are through and what you will have, and then you need to ensure that you get the feedback of what is happening. Actually, the one thing that helped me a lot was that when I started being a manager, I was actually not a very good one, I think. I was not listening. I was looking more to my bosses, because that's where you get, as an individual contributor, how you make success, how you define success, and you cannot really understand the vibes that are coming from the team, how they're feeling, how you motivate them, how you get the negative feelings and how you make them open up. So I believe that if you learn to get the feedback quite soon, then you will understand that you have to change the way you are working. It's a totally new thing. It's different. You have to listen more, etc. So I think that that's a very good question, by the way. It's a very not all make the right change from an individual contributor to a manager, and it has different skills. And we as an organization needs to ensure that we get people to know them.
Ms. Vlachou?
I think that over the years as an individual contributor, you observe behaviors in other leaders that inspire you, or you even reject behaviors. So along the way that you're an individual contributor, you're in a progress and in a process of, identifying the behavioral elements that you would like to adapt, that are close also to your personality, and the ones that you would reject. And when you become a leader, then you actually put in place what has been built inside of you for many years that you were not really conscious of. But it is through this process. And I totally agree with, that feedback is a very important element, because in the first phases of getting new responsibilities, you need to have people around you, and you need to be open to feedback in order to adapt to the demands, let's say, of the organization, and make sure that you're following actually and you are leading the way in a way which is relevant to the people.
Mr. Tsamaz?
Okay, as you manage and as you are given assignments over the time, from gradually you come from a manager to a leader. So there is a number of things that play a role or determine whether you will become a good leader or not. Definitely, I agree with Mrs. Vlachou and Mr. Theodosis, Mr. Michalopoulos. I can think of many things, okay? But above all, you have to, as I said, you have to treat others the way you want to be treated. For me, this is a rule I've had it from the very early years of my managerial career. Then you have to be a listener. You have to accept constructive criticism. You have to allow mistakes. You have to also display confidence. You have to be ready to go up front and persuade your people that you're there and you will support them no matter what happened, even in not only in the success but also in the failure. Okay, so there's a number of characteristics that you have to get, or you have to display over the years in order at one point to say that okay, I can be, or I am a good leader. But what I would say after all these years, I'm still learning. Okay, it never ends.
So it's a lifelong journey.
It's a long journey. I'm still making mistakes. I'm still learning. I'm even learning from my kids. I can tell you an incident I had with my son and with my managers as well. It was.
How old is your son, Mr. Tsamaz?
Now he is 17.
Okay.
But I will go back to when he was 10 years old, 11 years old. I remember I had the strategy day. During that day in Ote, we gather approximately 1,300 managers of the group, and I review the year that has passed and the results that we have delivered, and also give them the outlook or give them the strategy, the objectives for the coming 3 years.
As an annual meeting?
Yes, it's an annual day meeting with this objective. So during that day, I remember I told them that it was another good year, that we have succeeded, but I remind you all that success is past. Η επιτυχία είναι παρελθόν. Okay, so let's see what we can do, what we need to do in order to succeed in the future. So this stayed as a motto that success is past. I remember a week later, now, out of the 1,300 managers that were listening to me, no one really dared to say, it's not exactly like this, it's, I see it in a different way, okay? So they accepted what I said, or they showed that they accepted, okay? So a week later, I'm at home, and my son Kosmas, he was studying his math, and he said to me, you know, Dad, because he knows I have this thing with mathematics. He said I got a very good grade in my math. I got 10 out of 10. I said to him, okay, that's fine, congratulations. But you know, you have to study now for your next course because success is past. So he looked at me and he said, okay, Dad, a failure is past. So if I fail, you know, so I got a lesson from my kid, you know, who was at that time 11 years old. So we always learn from our colleagues, from our peers, from the people we work with, from our kids as well, from our friends. And it's very important that we are open, we're listeners, and you know, we have to be in the position of others. It's very important. One of the things I try to recall when you asked the question, I recall myself, how was I back when I was first given the opportunity to become a manager. I remember at the beginning I was when I had that proposal. It was I considered it as a challenge, but I started implementing or using methods that I wanted my managers at the time to have used. Okay, whether it was the way they treated me or the way they managed certain projects or certain tasks or the way they managed the work. So I was always open to explore and learn new things.
So lead by example, a growth mindset.
Yes.
And since technology is supporting us, we do have attendees even in Kenya. So there's a question which is coming from Victor from Kenya. How do you manage conflict in a digital space as a leader? Who would like to take the challenge for the answer?
If
Mr.
I,
Michalopoulos. And then Mr. Tsamas, please.
yeah, I will be quite quick. I would say that it doesn't make a big difference how you manage conflict in a virtual or in a physical world, because ultimately you need to find a way to communicate transparently with people. So whenever you have a conflict, you need to ensure that you reach out to the other people and make sure that in another time, maybe not in the time when you have a conflict, you discuss with them, you are open about what happened, you bring the elephant in the room whenever, personally I like the expression, so what was there, why it happened, and try to create a relationship that is open and honest. So communication is the answer for me. It was always about communication. In the past it was go for a coffee, now unfortunately it's having an online meeting or something.
Is there anyone else who would like to provide an answer?
I think Theodosis.
You are all endorsing Theodosis. Yes. Okay, Mr. Michalopoulos, yes. So another question for you is I think we've gone through that, sorry. How can a manager lead his team more effectively online? Ms. Vlachou?
What we have observed is that it seems that online meetings are really efficient because they are very much specific in terms of time. So if you have a clear agenda in advance, if there is a preparation done before and it is distributed like a pre-read, and if you have specific objectives for the meeting, then you can run the meeting in an efficient and effective way. So it's simple tools actually. It's who you are going to invite, to the most relevant people, not to spare time from the rest. Preparation as a pre-read, specific agenda, and outcome that you expect from the meeting, and of course to keep the timeline overall. So this is the way to make it happen. Simple tips. It's not nothing really, rocket science.
Again, if I could add, I agree with Mrs. Vlachou that the online meetings can be much more efficient compared to another meeting. However, if you consider that the small talk you may have during a live meeting is an important one in order to create bonding, you don't have it during the online meeting, then long term if you need this, you have a problem. And that's what I said, that no matter how effective the online meetings are, as far as I'm concerned, the emotional bonding, the human bonding, it's very difficult to have it through the screen. And especially when you have to manage a huge organization, you need emotional bonding with your key people in various levels of hierarchy. It's very important. If you don't see them, if you're not close by to look at their eyes and feel them, and also give them the opportunity to feel your passion or your belief in a live manner, it's much more difficult. I don't say that it's impossible, but it's much more difficult. It's what we're missing from this online.
So it's not just effective leadership, it's also affective leadership, building strong relationships with the people.
Exactly.
And technology, you think that can support us in that end?
Again, this is a personal experience. Other colleagues may not have this experience, okay, at least. But for me, because the emotional bonding has played a very important role during all these years for moving people, for motivating people, and this is what I'm missing now. That's why I now have started my meetings. We were approximately 70% from home, working from home since COVID started. And initially, during the first period, our meetings were 100% being done through virtually. But I have started now having them mixed. I make a point also to go to these management meetings myself, and have at least half of the team each time in order to
Meet face to face.
Exactly.
Yeah, I also agree that I miss that as well, very much, I have to say. That's why when we hear that we might be physically here, I was very happy with that. But I have to admit that on the other hand, the opportunity through the pandemic and the digital tools is that you get to learn some things about your people that you would never know. For example, I know the dogs, I know who has a baby, so things that you usually wouldn't know. And actually, they can be very helpful in building a relationship. It's not making the situation better, but it's something that you can keep for the future. You create a different relationship with your people.
Okay, Mr. Michalopoulos, continuing on that thought, I have a question from Dr. Vasia Stefanou, Assistant Professor at the MIS Department at Deree. Mr. Michalopoulos talked about important qualities of a good leader, namely leading by example and coaching. Are there any additional traits that an exemplar digital leader should have? Emphasis on the digital, please. Emphasis on the digital.
Yes, look, the skills that, a leader in technology, a very important thing is what Mr. Tsamas said earlier about being a generalist and trying to understand the technologies and what they do for people. So I believe that in the future, in the technology sector, one of the qualities that leaders need to have is to be able to articulate the results and the impact of technology to the people, to people's life. And I think, by the way, pandemic was very good for that because it showed the good face of the technology and how it can help people, citizens, like what is happening in Greece today. So for me, being able to articulate technology without staying on the features and how, things that only technical people understand, if you can articulate how this makes a difference in everyday life, I think that's very important skill.
Thank you very much for the answer. And the next question goes to Ms. Vlachou. Did the vision of your company change during the pandemic? And if so, in which direction?
Yes, as a company, we have the vision to provide the right snack for consumers at the right moment, made in the right way. So actually, the vision per se has not changed, but the way we communicate and connect to consumers has changed, applying the tools and the technology that we discussed before. So it's about creating connections with consumers. And actually in Mondelez, we have changed marketing as a phrase and as a definition, and we are talking about humaning. So marketing has been translated into humaning. And this means that the brands are there and the company is there to create connections with consumers and provide the joyful moments throughout their day, through our snacks. So it's the touch points that have evolved, and it's about making connections, and technology is there to support that.
Okay, thank you very much for this answer. I'm going to the next question. I'm not sure if we will have time to go through all the questions. So this is Vasiliki Zatana, alumni of Deree 2016, current Alba student. What is the biggest fear through the Should I read that once more? So what is the biggest fear through the digital transformation process of your companies, personal or professional? Mr. Chamaz? Fear.
I wouldn't call it. I cannot think of a fear during the transformation of the digitalization. The only concern that you have is whether, at the beginning, whether the people have embraced it, whether the people have believed in it, and whether they are motivated enough in order to embark on this journey. During the course of the digitalization or the digital transformation, then you have the tools and the mechanisms and the systems there to follow up that whatever needs to be done, it's being done at the checkpoints that you have agreed. So I would say that if you have created a thorough plan, a well thought plan, and if you have assigned the right people to monitor this plan and to manage this plan, and at the same time you have also selected the right people that will have to do the work, there's no reason for having a fear. So I haven't felt this fear. And then when you were talking about, we're talking of for a multinational organization, very frequently you have the concern whether you will have the approval for the budgets that you need in order to from headquarters for implementing the whole program as fast as possible, as soon as possible. Because digitalization, especially in large organizations, it's very capex intensive. Okay, especially in our case, we are a technology company, and when we talk about digitalization, it's the systems that have to change, and the systems and the methods and the processes are numerous.
Yes.
So we allocate many millions every year for digitalizing. And
it makes sense. Also, as Ms. Vlachou mentioned earlier, you have to allocate the right resources, and of course, you're technology intensive as a company, and it does make sense. Mr. Michalopoulos, a question that goes to you. Are your company employees happier when working online, or they want to go back?
Yeah, I think that what we, based on internal reports, but also, publication, it seems that it's a mixed feeling. So most people want to come back to the office, but again, most of them do not want to be on the office all the time as they were before. So I would say that happiness within the pandemic is a little bit tough, because I think that there are externalities on the way you feel you cannot manage. So I believe that the opportunity you have to spend time with your people is definitely a positive, but within the situation that is very, for everyone is very tough. People are getting sick, they're losing their lives. It's very tough for all of us, for all out there. So I believe that, it's, I think people want to get back to the office, to have physical touch, but they want to keep some of the flexibility, a lot I would say, of the flexibility they had today. That would be my...
Okay, I think that we are running out of time. I wish that we had the time to go through all the questions. So I would like to ask each one of our esteemed speakers to give us your final thoughts on the issue at hand. And may I start with you, Mr. Chamaz?
on digitalization.
Digital leadership is not just digital.
Okay, for our audience, which mostly is students, as I understand.
Business
I w-
leaders as well.
Yes, I would say attitude is what will determine your future. And on digitalization, digitalization is not a luxury. Uh, we have to go into it. At least the ones we are responsible for businesses. It's not a matter of choice. It's a matter of life or death. You digitalize, you survive. You don't digitalize your company, regardless of the size of it, you'll have serious problems.
Thank you very much, Ms.
Yeah,
Vlachou.
just one comment. It would be, I think leaders should be open to the new opportunities which are out there through digitalization, and they should be bringing their people along.
Yeah, and from my side, I think that digitalization should not be the objective per se, but it should be a way, the means on getting into a better leadership, a new, more purpose-driven leadership. We see that companies are changing, and I think that students of today will be very happy to work for organizations in the next day that look after the environment, they're looking after for, they're more ethical, they have different standards, more empathy. So I believe that you get the opportunity using technology to have more of that. That's for me the opportunity here.
So allow me to sum up the key takeaways from this discussion. Digital disruption is here to stay, and leaders will always be the ones to lead the journey with a transformative vision. We have great examples. Digital transformation is not the language of the few and the privileged, and almost every organization can tap into new technologies which are accessible, affordable. Business leaders should invest in new technologies and allocate the necessary resources so that their people are adequately reskilled and upskilled. Digital leadership should be both effective and affective. So this can be achieved by using the new technologies and the digital channels to nurture an employee-centric culture. And with that, our panel discussion has come to an end. Ms. Vlachou, Mr. Michalopoulos, and Mr. Tsamas, I wish to thank you for your time and, of course, the valuable contribution. And I would like also to thank the students of the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Club who have supported the organization of the event. And of course, to our online audience, thank you for your attendance and the valuable contribution as well. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for having us and the hospitality.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for
Thank
being
you a lot
here.
for having us.